It's 1:30 a.m. on September 25th, 2020, and officers from the Metropolitan Police Service are patrolling on London Road in Norbury, South London. Out of nowhere, they spot a male holding a duffel bag while wearing a black surgical mask, coat, trousers and boots. Although this wouldn't have usually aroused suspicion at that moment in time, remember most of the public were wearing masks. On this occasion, it did, as there had been burglaries in the area. The police thought this man, whoever he was, may be connected to the ongoing burglaries in the area, and so it was time to investigate.
I want to detain you under Section 1 of the Police Criminal Evidence Act, okay? The reason for that is there's a lot of burglaries in this area, and I've just seen you walk... You can, just keep your hands out your pockets for now. I'll take it and have a look in a minute, alright? The reason is there's a lot of burglaries in this area, okay? It's 1:30 in the morning. I don't know who you are. You've probably got a totally legitimate excuse, alright? But at the moment, you're walking down the road with a duffel bag, alright? Which I believe may have stuff going to equipped to do a burglary, alright? So I'm just going to search you.
In this pocket, I've got my ID.
Perfect, okay, that's fine. Don't put your hands in your pockets. Hey, hello, don't put your hands in your pockets, okay? You okay? You're just going to be searched, mate. You're not under arrest. I just need to search you. You okay? Alright, just a bit nervous, yeah?
My parents, please.
Okay, are they expecting you home? Okay, that's fine. Alright, that's fine.
You give me 2 seconds, Do you want me to hold that? It's alright, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. So my colleagues just explained. He was just quickly search you, see if you've got anything, and you're going to be gone. This is all being recorded on body worn camera, okay? You're not in trouble. My colleagues just said a few of the grounds, and he was just going to quickly search you, and you're free to go.
Okay.
I'm entitled to a copy of the slip. Okay?
I'm going to confess, okay?
Yep.
In that bag is non-medical cannabis.
That's a then 23-year-old Louis De Zoya. It's not entirely clear what he was doing on the night in question, but to nip it in the bud, he was no burglar. There is one leading theory that has been pushed, and that was he was heading to his parents' home. Not for any regular visit though, as you'll find out shortly. Louis had been addicted to cannabis for roughly 4 years by this point, spending roughly £200 a month on it, which was more than likely why he had it in his possession. He was also diagnosed with autism earlier on in life, which at first glance may explain why he was so nervous when interacting with police. He was visibly shaking. According to medical reports, Louis' autism impacted the way he communicated and interacted with members of the public. But even if autism played a slight role in this nervous exchange with officers, it most definitely wasn't the cause of the initial stress. The stress wasn't caused by the fact he was in possession of cannabis either.
Okay, how much have you got in there?
I've got maybe 3 or so grams.
Okay. Alright, I'm still going to have to search you, alright? Yeah. So, just pass me your phone and your mask, okay? All my concern is at the moment is if you've got anything on that's going to hurt me or you. Any needles, any razor blades, anything like that. Okay, fine. Because you just told me you've got drugs on you, I'm just going to have to put you in handcuffs while I search you. The reason... What's the matter? So the reason for that is people try and do silly things when we search them. They try and hurt themselves, they try and hurt police officers. Alright?
Can you take me into the car, please?
Why? Don't resist. Listen to me very carefully.
I know.
Don't resist.
Okay, we'll put you in the car, but put the handcuffs in first, yeah?
Okay.
Is it someone's watching us? Or...
Look, take the bag, please. Thank you.
Why do you want us to sit you in the car?
Just worried, please.
Why? Why are you worried?
Just...
You think your parents might see?
No.
Right, get in the car, mate. Control, could I create a CAD for a stop of a person on London Road, junction with Pollard's Hill North, please? Don't put your hands in your pockets. Don't do that again. Do you understand? Do you understand? That's the 3rd time you've done that, and I've told you not to. Next time, listen to me, next time you're going to be handcuffed to the back. Alright? 3 times I've asked you. You speak perfectly good English. Stop doing it.
It's for our safety as well, because we don't know if you're reaching for a knife. We don't know what you're reaching in for your pocket.
Inside is my. If you open
Received.
you'll see my ID, which has my address.
At the moment, I've tried to do you a favour by taking you off the street. You've not told me why. I'm just saving you a little bit of embarrassment. Now you've reached into... Stop talking. You've now reached into your pockets 3 times and I've told you not to, right? You've now told me you've got drugs on you when I thought you might have had some sort of tool on you to burgle someone's house. So now I'm going to search you stood right here, all right? Because I don't know what else you've got on you, and I think there's more to this story than you're letting on, despite having drugs on you, all right? Okay, so I asked you earlier, I'm not too sure what the answer was. Have you got anything on you like sharp that can hurt me or you?
No.
No?
Can you be a
You'll see what it is. It's not real.
I believe we might do some paperwork. Stop. How many canisters?
Yeah. Canisters.
Oh. And
Right, at the moment, I'm
Right.
placing you under arrest
Okay. I'm
for
sorry.
possession of what I believe to be bullets. All right. Could I have van and cell space for one male adult arrested for possession of what I believe to be bullets on London Road, junction with Pollard's Hill North? How about 1567. Okay, thanks. Needs to search the back of him.
A1, you've got a cell to file that windmill.
Just say received for me.
you received.
Yes, do.
Just hold his jacket up for me.
So, we're changing to handcuffs to rear.
Yeah, definitely.
Blankets here.
You got one pair of trousers on?
I have a second pair of thermals.
Right, okay. Okay, I'm just going to search your inside leg. Spread your legs slightly for me, thank you. Where'd you get the boots from? Yeah, all good.
Mind your hands, darling, because I'm close to the door, alright?
Do you want me to stay with you?
No, it's fine. Possession of a firearm, aka a bag of what look like bullets. Possession of intent to supply, Class B.
Who is the other unit that's coming
So you probably don't need a further search.
Yes, 100%.
Right,
Yeah,
just sit back, let's wind them down, but don't take the cuffs off.
yeah, it's fine.
Stand up, mate.
He's been a bit.
Go on.
Not
I
understand.
think this is it.
I understand, stand up.
So please leave.
What?
Please leave. I think I'm going to pass on.
Okay, listen to me.
I don't need that, mate.
My name's Matt, I'm the custody officer, right? I'm in charge. I'm not involved in the investigation. You've been arrested on suspicion of possession of bullets, ammunition and possession of intent to supply.
Class B.
Class B, anything else?
That's it.
Alright, your detention's not been authorised yet, but I can authorise a search of you under section 54 of PACE. Stand up. Mate, you're good enough to...
After being led into a cell at Croydon Custody Centre in South London, Louis managed to grab hold of a Colt antique revolver that he had stored in a holster under his coat and opened fire on custody sergeant Matt Ratner. Even though Louis had been thoroughly searched, police somehow managed to miss the near foot-long gun that had been concealed. This would ultimately allow Louis to shoot Sergeant Ratner. Over the space of seconds, 4 shots were fired towards Sergeant Ratner. The first hit him directly in the chest, more specifically, the heart. After the first shot was fired, officers leapt on top of Louis, but he continued to fire. A second bullet would hit Sergeant Ratner in the leg. The third would lodge into the cell wall, and the final would bounce off the floor and hit Louis in the neck. As Sergeant Ratner lay bleeding to death, more officers ran in the cell and tasered Louis while screaming, "You fucking piece of shit." He was then dragged out of the cell, leaving a trail of blood. Officers would try their best to keep both men alive until paramedics arrived. They were both bleeding out in Croydon Custody Centre. When they did arrive, both men were still breathing. However, Sergeant Ratner would succumb to his injuries just 2 hours later in hospital. Louis almost met the same fate, but after life-saving surgery, he would go on to survive, although it should be noted that he had been in a coma for months after the surgery. Although he survived, it wasn't entirely clear if he'd ever go on trial because of the condition he was in. The shooting had caused him to have a stroke, which left him with brain damage. He was able to communicate on a very basic level. He had also been left partially paralysed. However, the Crown Prosecution Service wanted to move forward with murder charges 9 months after the shooting, as Louis had somewhat recovered from his injuries. His lawyers argued that because he had brain damage, he wouldn't be fit to stand before a jury. But the judge presiding over the case would disagree and gave the go-ahead. You see, Louis was able to communicate at a very basic level using a whiteboard and short phrases. A lot of the time, it would just be one-worded answers. He was also able to somewhat understand questions that would come his way. And so when the judge took all of this into account, the thumbs up for the trial was given. I spoke to Matt 2 days before the shooting. The thing that pains me the most is that he was just 2 months away from retiring. Our words spoken by Matt's brother James Young. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Ratner was just 2 months away from retiring, but he was sadly murdered in cold blood. Matt's life had been one huge roller coaster. He was born in New Zealand to a loving family. As he was growing up, he wanted to follow his dreams of becoming a tennis player. As a part of chasing this dream, he would secure himself a scholarship in America, but ultimately decided he wanted to join the Metropolitan Police when he moved to England in 1991. He would be a police officer until 2020. Once you met Matt, you couldn't forget him. He would take time out to talk to people. He didn't care who you were. It's quite strange, but people who had been previously arrested would turn up to the station because they wanted to chat with Matt. Matt will be missed by many. The same can't be said for Louis. In June of 2023, Louis DeZoya would go on trial for the murder of Matt Ratner. As you know, it was never fully clear why Louis decided to go out that night armed with a gun. But the police and the Crown Prosecution Service did have one theory. He was going to either A, seriously hurt his father, or B, murder him. Again, this theory should be taken with a pinch of salt, because no charges in relation to Louis harming his father were ever placed against him. The reason why that theory was the strongest was because Louis and his father had a rocky relationship. You see, growing up, he would witness his father beat his mother. He would tell the jury using response techniques with his lawyer that he would be beaten by his father over trivial matters when he was a child. The police were fully aware there had been issues, as they had been called to at least one fight between the pair in the past. In 2019, they were called to the family home after a fight broke out. Louis had kicked his father off a bike because, quote, he had been talking too loud. During the trial, it emerged that Louis had purchased the antique firearm legally via an auction website. At that point in 2020, it was legal to do so. His lawyer stated that he had purchased the gun because he had feared the pandemic would lead to food shortages. Therefore, he would use the firearm to hunt wildlife. However, psychologists would tell the jury that Louis had told them he began carrying the gun months before the shooting for protection. He told the psychologists that he had been robbed in a drug deal gone wrong. Louis had lived at a flat in Banstead. That's roughly 10 miles from where he would be picked up by police. He had moved out from his parents' home after dropping out of an engineering course at college and finding employment with the HMRC. Using the experience he had in engineering, he crafted several working bullets for the firearm in his garage at the flat. Those bullets would be used to murder Matt Ratner. During the defense's opening speech, Louis' lawyers would tell the jury that he never intended to kill anyone that day, even up until the point of the shooting itself. Instead, they explained that due to a lack of personal space, Louis had an autistic meltdown. His autism diminished his responsibility. In other words, he wasn't in a sound frame of mind when he committed the murder. To no surprise, the jury wouldn't accept the defense, and Louis was found guilty on all charges placed against him. He was handed a life sentence on a life order tariff, meaning he'll never be released from jail.
Louis de Zoysa, at 1:26 in the morning on the 25th of September 2020, you shot dead Sergeant Matt Ratner. He was the custody sergeant at Croydon Police Station. He had devoted his life to public service. He put himself in the way of danger to protect the public and to protect and safeguard those who came into custody. You have robbed Sue Bushby of their future life together, Diane Peachy of her stepson, Luke Ratner of his father, and Jessica Williams and James Young of their brother. They are all rightly immensely proud of the man you killed. They recognise that you bear the sole responsibility for his murder. They say in their victim impact statements that for the officers who were on duty that night, they have nothing but support, sympathy, admiration, and respect. You said that you had an autistic meltdown. You said that you had diminished responsibility. The jury disagreed. The jury found you guilty of murder. The sentence for murder is set by law. It is life imprisonment. So I sentence you to life imprisonment. I have a great deal of medical evidence about your condition, and I have been given very great assistance from your lawyers. I have all the information that is necessary to pass sentence. The law requires the court to decide whether to set a minimum term order or a whole life order. A minimum term order means that you can be considered for release after the minimum term. A whole life order means that you remain in custody for the rest of your life. The aggravating factors, in my judgment, outweigh the mitigating factors. The aggravating effect of your use of a gun and the planning and premeditation outweigh the mitigating effects of your personal mitigation, including the impact of custody. There is therefore no justification to depart from the starting point of a whole life order. That is what Parliament has decided should normally apply as a starting point to the murder of a police officer in the execution of their duty. The seriousness of the offence means that a minimum term order is not justified. A whole life order must be imposed. Louis de Zoysa, I sentence you to imprisonment for life. I impose a whole life order. That means you will remain in custody for the rest of your life. You may now be taken from the dock.